Hi everybody, welcome to Relish. I'm Alli. I'm a nutritionist and a yoga teacher and author of the Smoothie Book. And I'm here to talk to you every week about nutrition topics. This week we're talking onions. We're going to talk the history and the background, what is an onion, all the different types of onions, the nutrition info. We're going to talk about why they make you cry. And then we're going to do a recipe for pickled onions. So, I'm very excited about today's show because I have two visual aids. I have a yellow onion and I have a very large onion as well from our garden. My husband Raphael grew this and it's amazing. Our garden is full of these right now. So we're going to be pickling this onion right here. So I just wanted to show you as a visual aid. We'll put that back here and we will cut that in a little bit. So please, like always, if you have any questions or comments, put them down in the chat. I love talking during the show. So if you have anything related to onions, let me know. If you have any comments or questions, I'd love to hear from you during the show. So, onions. I have been looking up what an onion, hello. I've been looking up definitions for each week so that we can talk about it, and I think that's really kind of fun. So I looked up the definition of an onion, and this is what the dictionary says. Also, I added a little bit to it. So it's a little bit of both. So, okay, here, there we go. That's better. Got to make sure my hair is in the frame. Okay, so what does the dictionary say an onion is? An onion is an edible bulb from the Allium family with a pungent taste and smell, and it's made of concentric layers and used in cooking. And its close relatives include garlic, scallions, which are also known as green onions, leeks, chives, and Chinese onion. So those are the family members. Those are all in the Allium family. And onions, we can eat them in so many different forms. We can eat them raw, we can eat them cooked, we can eat them frozen, we can eat them caramelized, I guess that's cooked. We can eat them pickled, and we can also have them dried or powdered. And the powdered version is just a dehydrated onion that's been pureed. We can use it all year round because it's dried. We keep it in our spice rack. But it's made from the most pungent of them all, of the onions, just to keep it flavorful and fresh. So, lots of different options on how to eat onions. And so, let's talk a little bit about the history and the background of onions. Many historians believe that onions originated in Central Asia and are one of the most oldest cultivated foods in the world, vegetables. Other researchers think that onions were first grown in Iran and Western Pakistan. So I saw that in a lot of different places. Some say Central Asia, some say Iran and Pakistan. So somewhere in one of those two regions is where they originated. It's presumed that our ancestors were eating wild versions of onions well before they started cultivating and farming and writing things down. Most researchers agree that people have been cultivating them for at least 5,000 years. So that is a long time. Onions, so we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but onions have a lot of water in them. So they were really helpful back in the day, back in earlier times. They helped prevent thirst because they had so much water in them. And they could also be dried and preserved and eaten later, especially when food was scarce. So onions, and the great thing about onion is that it can be grown in all kinds of different soil, in all kinds of different weather, and they're easily stored and dried and transported. So that's why it's been, that's why you see onions in so many different parts of the world, because it has traveled all over. They're very, very easy to grow and transport. Let's see. So onions have been or were a sign of eternity, of endless life in Egypt, and they were also part of the burial and mummification process in Egypt as well. Egyptians painted onions on their walls of their structures, of their pyramids, of their tombs, and they also ate a lot of onions, and they used them in celebratory feasts and also in offerings to the gods. So they were a really important part of the Egyptian culture. They were also a celebrated tradition, or used a lot in traditional Indian medicine, and they were thought to help the heart, the joints, and the digestive system. And in ancient Greece, physicians, soldiers, and athletes also used or ate them a lot because they felt that it gave them strength. Or physicians suggested that, and then soldiers and athletes ate them for strength. And they ate them raw, they ate them cooked, they ate them as or consumed it as juice, and also used it onion oil as a rubbing oil. So they've been used a lot in a lot of different cultures around the world, throughout history. Now we use them for so many different culinary areas. So let's talk about the different types of onions. There is the yellow onion, which is the sweetest of all onions. So it's most commonly used, especially in European cuisine. And there are lots of different varieties of the yellow onion. There's the Vidalia, there's the Walla Walla, there's the Bermuda. And the nice thing about yellow onions is they turn like a nice, rich, dark color when they're caramelized. And that's what type of onion is used to make French onion soup, and maybe like an onion tart, or just used for when you're going to caramelize an onion. That's the good one to use because it is so sweet. And it just makes a really, really good caramelized onion. Those are so delicious. So then there is the red onion or purple onion, red or purple. That's you can call it either one. And these are known because they're a lot more pungent than the yellow onion. And they are traditionally used in Asian cuisine. And they're also used in raw in salads. They're really great for pickling, and they're also really great for grilling. So lots of options for the red onion. Then there are the white onions, and these have a milder flavor. They do turn a nice golden color when you saute them and cook them, and they do turn sweet as well when you cook them. And they are found traditionally in classic Mexican cuisine. And then there are these spring onions, also known as green onions or scallions. So these are basically onions that have been harvested early. So the bulb hasn't gotten too big. And this one that I have here kind of looks like a green onion, spring onion. I might have harvested it a little early. I picked it today. But you can see that the bulb is growing, but it is a little bit smaller than, let's say, this one. But delicious, delicious. We're going to pickle this as well today. So those are the 4 types that we're going to talk about today: yellow, red or purple, white, and green. So let's talk nutrition information after I have a sip of this ginger tea. My Cincinnati mug. Okay, so nutrition information. So like I said before, they were really great for thirst, or to quench your thirst. So they're 89% water, 9% carbohydrate, and within that carbohydrate, 4% of that is sugar and 2% of that is dietary fiber. They are also 1% protein and then pretty much no fat in onions. So onions are healthy whether they're raw or cooked. They have found that raw onions have a higher sulfur content Raw onions have a higher sulfur content, which is beneficial for our health. But you're still going to get some good health benefits from cooking them as well, if you prefer that, which I do. A study in the Journal of Agricultural Food and Chemistry found that there is a high concentration of flavonoids, so those phytochemicals, we'll talk about that in a minute, the good things, in the outer layers of the onion flesh. So when you're peeling your onion, really try to just get that like papery peel off and then keep the rest, because a lot of the nutrients are going to be in the outer peels, which I found in a lot of my research that they say that for a lot of vegetables, especially ones that are grown, that are in the soil. So keep that in mind. And okay, so I have 10 health benefits for onions, which is amazing. So let's get started. Okay, so onions are rich in phytochemicals. So phytochemicals are naturally occurring compounds in fruits and vegetables that have health benefits. And then, so phytochemicals is kind of like the standard umbrella term for a lot of different compounds. Flavonoids are a type of phytochemical. We're going to talk about a few more. But flavonoids are very present in onions, and the most common flavonoid in onions is quercetin, which is an antioxidant, and this can help with our heart and our blood pressure. So yellow onions have the highest total flavonoid content, about 11 times more than white onions. Red onions have a considerable amount of anthocyanins, which are also phytochemicals, and those can help decrease blood pressure, improve our visual acuity, and also are anti-inflammatory. And red onions also do have a good amount of the quercetin in them as well, which is the phytochemical, the flavonoid. That is good. So onions may help prevent stroke and heart attack. We'll talk about that a little bit, other reasons for that. The polyphenols, which are also phytochemicals, in onions act as natural blood thinners and prevent blood platelets from clustering, so that can be good for our heart, that can be good for stroke prevention. Onions can also help reduce heart disease risk. The quercetin has been found to help lower our blood pressure and lower inflammation. So we know that chronic inflammation isn't good for us, so the quercetin can help with both of those. And this is interesting, I didn't know this. Quercetin in onions has been found to relax the airway muscles, which can help with asthma symptoms. Quercetin in onions also acts as an antioxidant, which we know is great to protect us against all those free radicals that we get in our environment, sometimes from our food. So these antioxidants can also help build a strong immune system. And so this is interesting. So the quercetin in onions can reduce allergic reactions by stopping your body from producing the histamine. And the histamine is what makes you sneeze or cry or have the watery eyes. So quercetin can help counteract that. So that's interesting. Onions may be anti-cancer agents. A study found that people that eat a lot of allium vegetables like onions, like garlic, like leeks, like shallots, things like that. So a study found that people that eat the allium vegetables like onions, such as onions, that there was a reduced risk of gastric cancer. And according to the world's healthiest foods, eating between 1 and 7 servings of onions per week can help reduce the risk of several different cancers. And eating several servings of onions a day may help decrease the risk of oral and esophageal cancer. So basically, eating onions regularly is a good thing. Onions are also a great source of fiber, which is good for our digestive system, which is also, so this is interesting. So onions have a type of soluble fiber in them called oligofructose, which can help promote the good bacteria growing in our intestines. So that is good. That is good. And onions may also help our blood sugar. The chromium found in onions could help regulate our blood sugar, and the sulfur in onions can help trigger the insulin production. So good in both ways. Let's see what else. So onions may help with our bone density in older women too, which that I thought was great, really great news. A 2009 study in the journal called Menopause found that daily consumption of onions improved bone density in women who were going through or had finished menopause, and women who ate onions frequently had a 20% lower risk of hip fracture than women that did not eat onions. So many good things in onions. And there are so many different ways to eat onions too. So, are there any health risks from eating onions? Not really. Onions are very good for us. They're generally considered very safe for us to eat. The only problems maybe that you might run into is some people experience gas and bloating from onions, and people that maybe tend to get heartburn may get heartburn from eating raw onions. So that's just something to keep in mind. So let's talk about the eye irritation with onions. So we all know that if we cut onions, a lot of times our eyes start to sting and then they start to water, and that can be really uncomfortable. Maybe it's okay, maybe you wanted to have a good cry. Either way, it might make our eyes water. So why is that? So when we cut a raw onion, there is a chemical irritant called, and I'm going to have to really say this slowly because it's a long chemical word. There's a chemical irritant called synpropanethyl S oxide that is released from the onion, and it stimulates the glands in our eyes to release tears. So we've all heard that there are so many different ways to prevent this from happening. I think that there are a lot of wives' tales. There are just a lot of different methods out there. I'm just going to list some of them. Maybe you want to try them. But yeah, so some say if you run your onion under water, or if you submerge your onion in a bowl of water, that can help prevent it. Some say that this chemical irritant is found in the root or in the base of the onion. So they say that to try to avoid cutting that area, which I don't know, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. And some say if you refrigerate the onions before you cut them, that could reduce the crying. Some say to use a fan and blow the air away, which I feel like that could just maybe bring it in through the whole room, but whatever. Somebody told me once that they light a candle, that they've heard that helps. So there are a lot of different methods to help prevent this. Some say the way you cut it too could make a difference. And I also read that the more frequently you handle and chop onions, the less frequent the crying happens. So I don't know if maybe our eyes just get used to it or what, but I have to say that it's been a long time since I've cried from cutting onions, and we eat onions a lot at our house. So maybe there's something to that. I don't know. But I thought that was pretty cool. What is the best way to store onions? Let's discuss that. So for red, yellow, and white onions, the best way to store them is you can keep them at room temperature, like away from heat and like a lot of light. And like they say to put them right next to each other, not to stack them. If you're going to use them within a week or so. If you're going to use them probably later than that, they say that refrigerating them is good as well. And for green onions, it's best to keep them like in a mesh bag or something that's breathable in the drawer in the refrigerator. And if you cut an onion and you don't use all of it, put that in a container, a sealed container in the refrigerator, and that should keep for a good amount of time as well. So those are the storage methods. So are you all ready to make some pickled onions? I thought that would be a fun thing to make today because I make them a lot, and it's just so nice to have on hand. We put them on everything. We put them on tacos, we put them on salads, we put them in grilled cheese. The options are really endless of what you can do with pickled onions, and they're really, really nice to have on hand. So I thought, let's do this let's do this recipe in the show. So the recipe is called Quick Pickled Onions, and you can find it on relish.com. And it's by Cookie and Kate, and super simple. I know that if you've watched my show regularly, you know that I change things up a lot in recipes, which I am changing things up a little bit today. So I think she says to do red onions, and most of the time it is red onions, but we have onions in our garden because my husband grows really great things. He also grows really beautiful flowers. He told me today that the rhododendron is the Washington state flower, which I did not know that, but it makes sense because they're everywhere right now, and we have some in our yard. And so there's a really nice centerpiece on the cutting board right now, or on the cutting table, I guess. So anyway, I'm doing garden onions. This is a great thing to do if you've grown onions too, and you have a lot of them, and you're thinking, what can I do with all these onions? Pickled onions is the way to go. So we have to get some liquid boiling. So we need a half of a cup of water, which whoops, one of the flowers fell into the water. Okay, whoops. Okay. Half of a cup of water. I've got that measured here. And then we're supposed to do a fourth of a cup of white vinegar and a fourth of a cup of apple cider vinegar, but I'm just gonna do a half a cup of apple cider vinegar because that's what I have, and I've done that before, and it's totally fine. So I'm just finishing a bottle. If you watched my apple cider vinegar episode, you'll see that this is the kind that we use at our house. Okay, so half of a cup of apple cider vinegar. Super easy. And I liked this recipe because a lot of times people use sugar, and she used maple syrup. So I liked that. And 1.5 tablespoons of maple syrup. So I'm just going to eyeball that. Tablespoon. And we're going to get that boiling. So you just boil that. Bring it to a boil, I guess. And then we're done. Then we stir it, make sure the maple syrup has dissolved to a good amount. And while that is happening, we're going to cut into this onion. I'm really excited. This onion is going to leak. Toss that in the old sink there. Okay, so here we go. And a little dirt on that. I'm going to go give it a quick rinse. Okay. Okay, I'm back. I just didn't want us to have the dirt. Okay. So you can cut it any shape. A lot of times people do really thin slices. I'm going to do some like onion rounds because I think that would be really pretty fun for pickling purposes. All right, so we've got our onion rounds right here. You can use red onions, you can use yellow onion, you can use white onion, you can use green. Well, I don't know about like the skinny green onions. I'm not sure about that. But, because I just don't know if that would really last. They're so thin. Okay, then we just pack the onions in a little jar. There we go. We're packing the onions in the jar. I can hear the water and the vinegar starting their boil. Okay, so I'm going to cut the other one. Oops, okay. This is exciting. So the recipe says you can pretty much eat them once it gets to room temperature. But I like to keep them in the refrigerator for at least a day. Let all of the vinegar sink in, and whenever I open the fridge, I give it a shake, turn it upside down. Okay. Some of that was a little, okay. There we go. And I think we have enough in this other one to cut this one up. So you can just do, as much as you want. or as much as you can fill your jar. Very, very exciting. All right, so I'll do a little bit more. Why not? Why not? Okay. So yeah, tacos, grilled cheese, salads, eggs, omelets, a little bit of cream cheese and on your toast with pickled onions on top. So many options here. So many options with this. Okay. We're still cutting, and I can hear this water is almost boiling. Alright. A little bit more. I just want to fill the jar as much as we can. Okay. So then, oh yeah, a lot of water came from those onions. That's good. Okay, so our jar is 2/3 full. That's good. And I like to add, they suggest red pepper flakes. I'm gonna add some mustard seeds. I always like to add that to our pickled onions. And some peppercorns. Just add a few of this. This is from the peppercorn grinder. Oh, and some salt. Where is our salt? I forgot our salt. Okay, and I'm going to grind the salt. We're supposed to put that in the boiling water. Okay, we'll grind some salt into there. Okay, there we go. Should be ready momentarily. Let's see if I have, oh yeah, there's some more left here. We can add to this jar, because when you make the vinegar solution, you might as well use it as much as you can. Okay. Pickled onions. So delicious. Okay, that's perfect. All right, now I'm going to give this a stir. This is nice and ready. And the nice thing about using the maple syrup is that it doesn't take a whole lot for that to get dissolved. Ooh, I can smell the vinegar in the air. Okay, so it's good to use a jar that can take the heat, because we're going to pour in the, yes, we're going to pour the water, or the vinegar solution into the jar. So let's do that. I'm going to do it over here. Or actually I'll do it over the cutting board. Okay. There we go. Perfect. And then I'll put the lid on once so I'm going to let this cool to room temperature. Then I can put the lid on, give it a shake, put it in the refrigerator once it's at room temp. We've got pickled onions. So exciting. All right, everybody. That's the story on onions. I'm going to bring the chair back around. We'll just close out the show. So, thank you all so much for joining today for the discussion on onions. And you can find the recipe on relish.com. Look for quick pickled onions. I will also be posting all of this on my Instagram. I will add that right here. At Alli Shercliffe. I'll be posting the final results on Instagram, and then I'll give the recipe link there as well. So, thank you all for joining the show. We've got yellow onions, we've got red onions, we've got white onions, and we've got green onions. We talked about all of that today. So many health benefits, phytochemicals, antioxidants, good for our heart, good for our digestion, good for our blood pressure, and so much more. So, thank you so much. Great to see everybody. I'll see you again next time with another topic. Have a great day. Have a great night. Talk to you all soon. Okay. Bye for now.